Ben, it's been a little while since we caught up, and there's been loads going on at the club since that point. We have to start with Shaun Maloney. Obviously, he's been in just under 2 months now. Talk us through his appointment and that process.
Yeah, I think firstly, it would be remiss of me not to publicly thank Jack and his management team for the great work that he did at the club, and equally as important, the work that Sir David and Eddie did in that interim period. I thought they did a sterling job, and we thank them, and they're still very much part of the plans of the club and really contributing going forward. I think the appointment of a new manager is a vital decision for any club. We conducted a real structured process away from Edinburgh. Lots of strong, credible candidates, and we even approached a few as well. We had a very clear, specific criteria, and we wanted a certain playing style that was possession-based and attack-minded. The process went, as per usual, a long list to a short list and then to a final two. Shaun, for me, is a young, progressive, dynamic coach and a real deep thinker around the game. He's a great mix of that elite coaching experience, but also has that hunger, determination to be successful in his own right as a manager. I genuinely believe it's a really positive, promising appointment, but obviously we need to give it time, and he needs to get our support.
Yeah, you talk about time. Obviously, he's only been here a really short period. How do you think he's got on and the team has progressed over that short time?
Well, I think the nature of the timing of it's been difficult for a number of reasons. For me, we wanted to bring a manager in as soon as we possibly could, and I felt the process went smoothly from that perspective. We then had a fantastic start of 2 wins. We then had that enforced early winter break, which probably didn't help from a momentum perspective, and then a very intense January transfer window. So I don't think anyone could say coming in at that period of time is an easy thing to do. To work with Shaun has been fantastic, but to get to accelerate and understand him and the way that we work as a club, I think has been a good exercise. But you know, it's been difficult. We've had some difficult times. We've had some difficult results, but none of us are shying away from that, and we all want to win. I'm a football fan myself, and I want to win. We know that the fans want to win every game possible, but we also know that we're on a bit of a journey here. A lot of the word of transition has been used, but you can't call it anything else. It's a process, and I'm very, very confident that people are starting to see the green shoots and the signs of Shaun's sort of playing philosophy, style coming through, and the players really adapting to that.
Yeah, when you change a manager, change the style of football completely, how hard is that then to go into a transfer window? Because I think Shaun was in the building 10-14 days prior to that transfer window. Did that change things from a kind of recruitment perspective? How did that work?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there were targets already identified naturally, and we've been working on that. We knew that we needed to really remedy some of the challenges that we had in the summer when I first arrived. And we knew that we needed to address certain positions and the depth of the squad mainly. So obviously Shaun has the final say on any player that comes into the building. But it was, like I say, quite an intense process because we needed to obviously get him up to speed with all of the targets that we were going after, and some of them straight away are kind of signings that we would no longer follow through with, and some that he definitely felt the team needed from a balance perspective. And some, like I say, that were then shelved as a result. So the whole January transfer window, you wouldn't want to go through that type of process with a new manager with that amount of change, whilst also playing a full games programme for half of the month. And it's never easy, but I think the way that we've actually ended up doing our business has been to the benefit of the club in general.
You mentioned there that Shaun obviously has the final say as the manager on players coming in, but what is the process? How involved are yourself, Ian Gordon as our head of recruitment, and Shaun?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned 3 people there, I suppose. Ultimately, it's a much bigger, wider network that's involved in deciding what our priorities are and the positions that we go after. ultimately, I'm responsible for the negotiation of the players and bringing them in terms of working with agents, working with other CEOs at other clubs to try to bring these deals to fruition. Shaun obviously has the final say in terms of the players that he wants to bring into the business, and very much from a head of recruitment perspective, it's about identifying the players that Shaun wants to fit into his system. They have certain attributes, they have certain kind of cultural characteristics that we really want to deliver on, and there's the whole collection of that data, which is then presented back, and I would say it's more of a committee. And from that perspective, it's then up to myself and Shaun to try and bring these players into the building.
Yeah, and you obviously mentioned the word transition earlier in terms of the squad and the players that we had at the start of the window to now. There's been a big transition and change in terms of players. I think it was 8 players in, including Dylan Tate and Chris Mueller, and 9 out. What was your take on the window as a whole and that whole transition to Shaun's style of play, Shaun's squad?
Yeah, to be quite honest, we're in the midst of reviewing it currently, so we don't take these things lightly. I always look with a critical lens firstly, so I don't just pat ourselves on the back and say, oh, isn't it great that we brought in these players, or that these players left us. It's not about that. It's about how do we evolve the squad to get it to the point where it can really benefit from Shaun's coaching, and we can start to deliver against our kind of sporting objectives there. So we're in that midst of that review. Did we get all of the decisions right? That will be questioned. Time will tell. I certainly think we've improved the squad in general. I'm really pleased with the culture that's continued to be really vibrant. We're a club that's together at the moment. We're a club that's resilient. I think we proved that at the weekend. We've got good, strong characters. And I genuinely believe we've improved the quality and the technical ability of the squad. So I think Shaun would say the same, but are we happy? Are we content? No, there's always positions that we feel that we could strengthen. And the great thing is you've got another window in a few months' time that means we can continue that evolution of the overall squad.
Yeah, almost the kind of elephant in the room in terms of the transfer window, obviously, was the departure of Martin Boyle. Just talk us through that process and how difficult a decision that was to make from a club perspective.
Yeah, well, I think before I actually talk about Martin, I think one of the disappointments that we had personally was Harry, obviously, Harry Clark and the injury that he suffered. A big signing for us in January, done early in order to help us through the January window and also into February. And we've been without his services. So that was a blow, and they're the types of things that you look at and go, okay, was it avoidable, was it not? And that's why we review the whole process. In terms of Martin, I think the one negative was, apart from losing a fantastic individual and player, was the nature of how long it dragged. It takes a lot of time and energy to sort of negotiate back and forth while you're also doing multiple negotiations elsewhere. I think it does distract on the playing side, on the coaching side. He's a brilliant individual who's given everything to the club, and there's no way that we could have ever denied him the opportunity to take a life-changing move. What I would say, though, is testament to the relationship that we have, not just Martin and myself, but Shaun as well. The fact that Martin and his representatives agreed to a clause that means that we will have sort of first refusal on him coming back and playing in the UK, I think is testament to Martin's love for the club, the love he has to the support of the club and the fans, and also the fact that he's enjoyed his time here and he's developed massively. So he kind of goes with a heavy heart from our perspective. We certainly didn't want him to leave, and I think it's fair to say the majority of fans hopefully would say if Martin was to have stayed at the club, it would have probably been one of our strongest windows in many years. That wasn't the case. And the fact that it dragged meant that perhaps that's one of the areas that we will need to look at addressing. I wouldn't say he's irreplaceable, but he's pretty close to it.
Yeah, that kind of brings me on to the next point of, obviously there was a sizable fee for Martin Boyle. Will that money be reinvested into the playing squad?
Yeah, I think the short answer is yes. Ultimately, we have been investing in the footballing side. We will continue to invest in the footballing side. We've got a fantastic owner that genuinely wants to see the club grow, evolve, and be the best version of itself. So the answer to that is yes. In what form and in what positions, that's to be decided internally, and we go from there.
Yeah, and obviously with that, we've been smart in the January window in terms of the players that have joined us, especially those on loan having options to buy, or Harry Clark, who you mentioned earlier, having an 18-month loan agreement with Arsenal. For him, is that something that you wanted to look at differently rather than just taking a player on loan like we have done before in terms of Nathan Wood or James Scott, and actually looking longer term?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I've spent a lot of time on at the club, working with the recruitment team and in general working with Shaun on this. There's no point in us bringing in a player, really making them one of our own players, involving them in everything, and then not having an option to sort of take him forward on a full-time basis. So a lot of the deals that we've done is with that in mind. There's options to buy, which means we can trigger them whenever we want. Players like Ewan, Rocky, Sylvester, I think they're making a really good impact, both on the pitch but also off the pitch culturally. And look, they are going to play a big part in us hopefully achieving our sporting objectives come the end of the season. So what we don't want is them to walk away and think that they've had a great time at Hibs. We actually want them to stay and be a part of what we're trying to grow here. So that's why we do these sort of deals. Yeah,
and obviously we've reached into new markets as well. Obviously Chris Mueller coming over from the States, Emmanuel Johnson from there as well in terms of the development squad, which we'll touch upon a little bit later. Elias Melkersen from Norway, and a lot more business done down south in England.
Yeah, one of the objectives we've got at the club is to widen our recruitment scope. I think we can be smarter in the way that we recruit from different territories. I think you're seeing that across the game a little bit more, but that's where I give credit to the recruitment team, give credit to Ian around widening that scope. I know Shaun is really keen on that as well. And ultimately what we want is we want to try and bring the best players to Hibs within our model. And we want them to thrive here. So whatever market they come from, whatever territory they come from, we genuinely want them to buy into what we're trying to do here. And I think it's now becoming quite an impressive story. Obviously, we've got the beautiful city of Edinburgh, great support, great stadium, a vibrant place to come and play your football, and a platform to be able to do it with a fantastic coaching team. So I kind of look at it very much as, why wouldn't a young player who perhaps isn't getting the playing time that they want, why wouldn't they want to come to this club? We'll put our arm around them and we'll give them that opportunity to really propel them. And if they're good and if they continue to progress, then obviously we know that there's a pathway for them, like there was for Martin, over a protracted period of time. But for me, that's the model here at this club, and we're proud of it. We've signed X amount of players during the transfer window. All of them are 25 or under. And I believe it was around 10 or 11 are under the age of 22. And that's a smattering across, the development team and the first team. But there's a clear philosophy here.
Yeah, and they all have the same kind of cultural attributes as well that you, Shaun, and everyone at this football club wants to integrate.
Yeah, and they all want to win. Fundamentally, they all want to be the best versions of themselves, and they want to be given that opportunity, and they want to be coached appropriately. And Shaun gives us that platform to be able to do that. And we give them the environment to try and be the best player that they can be. So I think they buy into it. We want them to have fun. We want them to play without pressure. We want them to be supported in the right way. So hopefully, like I say, that's the nice kind of mix of everything that we can offer as a club. But it's okay to play with young players. What we have to do is we have to be patient with them, and we have to forgive them for any kind of mistakes that are made, because they're human beings, they're not robots. And ultimately, they're plying their trade. We're giving them the opportunity, and they'll pay us back.
Yeah, we have to discuss the development squad, obviously, when we're talking about young players. It's something that, obviously, we spoke to Steve Keane about in terms of getting that squad up and running for next season. A lot of new faces have come into the building as well, and from different markets. Just talk to us about the development squad, the young players that have come in, and how the recruitment side works within that as well.
Well, firstly, Steve Keane and the team are doing a really great job for us. We've really worked very, very hard on the academy and what the pathway is for players. We're probably not in a position where we can buy kind of first team superstars or players, but can we actually sort of nurture and develop them to become them first team players for Hibs? And I think that's got to be our model and our pathway. We've also worked extensively behind the scenes on building a development programme, while other clubs are potentially waiting for what happens with the reserve leagues. We're saying no, we'll move forward. And I thank our owner for investing in that process to allow us to play games down south from next season onwards, but also play games in Scotland as well, to give them the development. And then we need to recruit a team that we believe can kind of support the first team as and when Shaun believes they're ready to make the step up from Steve Keen's development team to Shaun's kind of first team. And we need to be really careful around that player pathway to ensure that no one's stunted in their growth. So players like Runa, players like Alan, players like Xiao, players like Emmanuel, they've come in and they've added to what is already a very successful kind of under-18 squad that we hope will go on and achieve everything that they deserve with the great performances they're putting in. I think there needs to be a balance between the two, and we genuinely believe we're going down the right path, but the fruits will be in the way that these things turn out, and let's be judged on the results probably more next season and the season after that with the development team. But on the first team, we have clear objectives for this season, and that's what we're going after.
Yeah, I was going to say you can see a kind of long-term plan here in terms of the development squad, young players being brought in, signed, a young progressive manager here at Hibs as well. But short-term, what are the goals? What do you want to achieve? What do you want Hibs to achieve this season?
Well, I think cup competitions are always massively important to this club. We've been relatively successful in terms of in the short to medium history around reaching the deeper stages of the cups. We want to win one. That will always be an objective for this club. It should be. We're a big club. On the league, we have a very clear objective of a top 4 finish. That will unlock our European aspirations, which therefore unlocks good financial kind of rewards from that and opportunities to go deeper than we've ever gone into Europe. That's very much Shaun's kind of ambition as well. And by doing that then allows us to have the finances to hopefully invest further on the pitch and invest further in capital projects and improve HTC, improve the stadium, and ultimately give the fans a team that they're proud of, which is what we're all trying to aim for.
Absolutely, Ben. Thank you for speaking to us.
Thanks.